Hitler at this stage sees himself not as the Messiah, but as the John the Baptist. It's only at his time in Landsberg prison that he actually realizes, my God, I am he.
They called him the Black Baron. With a single tank, a lone wolf, capable of annihilating an entire army. His deadly precision on the battlefield made him a nightmare for Allied soldiers. But was Michael Wittmann a hero or a ruthless war criminal? And how did a quiet farm boy from Bavaria become the most feared tank commander of Nazi Germany? Michael Wittmann was born on April 22, 1914 in Volgathal, a small Bavarian village where life moved slow and steady. He wasn't raised around tanks or battle plans. He was raised with dirt under his fingernails, helping his family on the farm, learning the value of hard work and routine. Out there in the fields, he built strength, discipline, and a quiet toughness that no school could have taught him. But everything changed when he turned 19. Like most young men in Nazi Germany, Wittmann was pulled into military service. In 1934, he joined the regular army, and something just clicked. The marching, the rules, the clean uniforms, it all felt right to him. But Wittmann wasn't the type to blend in. He wanted something more elite, more powerful, more personal. So in 1936, he took a leap and joined the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler. Now, this wasn't just any unit. This was Hitler's personal guard, the best of the best. Hand-picked soldiers chosen for their strength, loyalty, and complete devotion to the Nazi regime. For Wittmann, it wasn't just a job, it was a statement. He wasn't just joining the army, he was joining the core of Hitler's inner circle, stepping straight into the heart of a war machine that was about to shake the world. In the years that followed, Wittmann moved with the tides of Nazi expansion. Austria, the Sudetenland, then Poland in 1939. The ceremonies were over. The war had begun, and Wittmann wasn't just posing in uniform anymore. He started off in a scout platoon behind the wheel of a reconnaissance vehicle, weaving through back roads and battle lines to gather intel. His skills behind the controls didn't go unnoticed. In the fast-paced blitzkrieg campaigns through France and Greece, he stayed in armored cars, learning the rhythm of warfare 1 mile at a time. These missions didn't make headlines, but they laid the groundwork. He learned how to move under fire, how to stay calm when the world exploded around him, and how to make decisions that could mean life or death. But in June 1941, everything changed. Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, his massive invasion of the Soviet Union. More than 3 million German soldiers and thousands of tanks rolled eastward in what would become the largest military operation in history. And Wittmann, now a part of the Waffen-SS, was right at the edge of it all. This wasn't just another battlefield, it was a different kind of war. Brutal, ideological, and deeply personal. The SS pushed through Ukraine with terrifying speed, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Mass executions, entire villages burned. Whether Wittmann took part in these crimes or not, he was there. And once you're that deep in the storm, there's no walking out clean. Just a few weeks into the campaign, Wittmann found himself in the middle of something he hadn't trained for. Near the village of Zhytomyr, a wave of Soviet T-34 tanks came roaring over the hills in a surprise counterattack. Dozens of them. Wittmann wasn't in a Tiger yet. He was still in a Stu G-3, a squat, low-profile assault gun designed for infantry support, not tank battles. He'd been ordered to gather intel, stay hidden, don't engage. But then he saw them, 18 Soviet tanks, barreling toward German lines. Wittmann had a choice: fall back and watch the front collapse, or take the shot. Alone, outgunned, and under orders to sit still, he made the call that would change everything. Instead of falling back, Wittmann made a move that would set the tone for the rest of his career. He vanished into the trees. Hidden in the woods, he turned the clumsy Stu G3 into a silent predator. Its gun couldn't swivel much. It had to be aimed by moving the whole vehicle. But his crew didn't flinch. They knew exactly what to do. As the first Soviet tank appeared over the ridge, Wittmann fired. One shot, one kill. Then another, and another. Within minutes, 6 T-34s were burning wrecks. The Soviet assault fell apart right there. It was quick, brutal, and precise. And it was the moment Wittmann stopped being just another SS officer. He came out of those woods with his first taste of glory and a brand new Iron Cross on his chest. The armor sent him to officer school. They had plans for him. By 1943, he was back on the Eastern Front, but now he had a different beast under his command, the Tiger I. This wasn't just a tank. It was a moving bunker with a cannon that could punch a hole in anything the Soviets had. With its thick armor and long-range 8mm gun, the Tiger could take out a T-34 before the Russians even got within firing distance. Wittmann, now an SS lieutenant, took charge of a Tiger platoon just as Germany prepared for Operation Citadel, an all-out assault on Soviet lines at Kursk. It was going to be the largest tank battle in history, and Wittmann was right at the heart of it. The offensive kicked off with Tigers rolling into a wall of defenses, mines, trenches, dug-in tanks. But the Russian shells just bounced off. Wittmann and his crew didn't stop. On the first day alone, they destroyed 8 tanks and a dozen anti-tank guns. The Soviets kept throwing wave after wave at them, but Wittmann held firm, constantly moving, picking new targets, keeping the crew focused and calm. The Germans had a word for this kind of coordination: zusammengespielt, playing together. And Wittmann's team played like a seasoned band, every movement, every command locked in. Then, just days into the battle, his commanding officer was killed. Wittmann stepped up and took control. By the end of Kursk, his numbers were staggering: over 30 tanks, 28 anti-tank guns, and countless artillery positions wiped out. And back in Berlin, those numbers didn't go unnoticed. Wittmann had become more than a commander. He was now a rising star in a military desperate for victories. In January 1944, he hit a milestone no one else had reached: 117 enemy tanks destroyed. Hitler summoned him to the Wolf's Lair, his personal headquarters, and awarded him the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. From that moment on, Wittmann wasn't just a soldier. He was a symbol, a living, breathing piece of Nazi propaganda. His face was everywhere: posters, newsreels, radio shows. The SS had its hero. Germany had its Black Baron. But medals didn't stop Allied invasions. That summer, the war came crashing down on the Western Front. The Allies landed in Normandy, and everything changed. Wittmann and his battalion were rushed to the front to slow the British and Canadian advance. But the road to Normandy was a gauntlet of Allied fighter bombers. Out of 45 Tiger tanks, only 6 made it to the battlefield in one piece. And then came June 13, 1944. British armored forces from the 7th Armored Division were rolling through the quiet town of Villers-Bocage. They were pushing deep, aiming to punch a hole in German lines and swing the momentum of the campaign. Wittmann had just one working Tiger, no other tanks, no infantry support. But when had that ever stopped him? He waited until the moment was perfect. As the British column passed, 138 vehicles in all, Wittmann pounced. From just 200 meters away, he opened fire. A Cromwell tank lit up, then another. Fuel trucks exploded, half-tracks crumpled, and command vehicles went up in flames. Wittmann drove straight into town, smashing everything in his path. British soldiers ran for cover, some abandoning their vehicles entirely. For 15 straight minutes, the town was pure chaos. Wittmann destroyed 14 tanks, 15 carriers, and 2 anti-tank guns before his own Tiger was finally hit and immobilized. But he wasn't finished. Even with his tank crippled, he kept firing until he ran out of targets. Then he and his crew escaped on foot, leaving behind a path of destruction that stunned the British and thrilled the German high command. What Wittmann did at Villers-Bocage wasn't just audacious, it was legendary, and it earned him the swords to his Knight's Cross, along with a new promotion to SS Hafsturmführer. His fame exploded. The Black Baron had become untouchable. At least, that's how it seemed. But no tank, no matter how powerful, can defy the odds forever. By August, the situation in Normandy had collapsed. The Allies were advancing rapidly, and German forces were in disarray. On August 8th, Wittmann was ordered to lead a counterattack near St. Agnan de Kremensnil. Just 8 German tanks were sent to face more than 300 Allied ones. It was a suicide mission, and Wittmann knew it. Still, he led from the front. His Tiger, designated number 007, rolled across the open fields. What he didn't realize was that British tanks from the 1st Northamptonshire Manmory were hidden in the nearby forest, while Canadian Sherbrooke Fusilier tanks waited behind a stone wall on the opposite flank. It was a perfect kill zone. As the German tanks advanced, the Allies opened fire. One by one, the Tigers were hit. Wittmann's tank was struck in the upper hull, and seconds later it exploded. The blast was so powerful it blew the turret clean off. No one inside survived. His remains wouldn't be identified until 1983. When his grave was found in a French field, he was reburied at Le Combe, alongside thousands of other fallen soldiers. Even in death, Wittmann's legend continued to grow. Some said a Sherman Firefly got him. Others claimed it was the RAF. Theories multiplied, each trying to solve the mystery of who killed the Black Baron, but the truth may never be known. What is known is this: by the time he died, Michael Wittmann had racked up one of the most astonishing combat records of the entire war. Officially, he's credited with destroying 138 tanks, 132 anti-tank guns, and dozens of other vehicles. But those numbers, like much of his story, are wrapped in myth. Some historians say the kills were exaggerated or that they belonged to his crew, or even other units entirely. Others argue that Wittmann's real weapon wasn't the Tiger, it was Nazi propaganda. Still, even people admit he was an exceptional tank commander, calm under pressure, relentless in attack, a master at reading the battlefield. But they also point out his flaws. His solo attack at Villers-Bocage was impressive, broke every rule of the armored warfare. He didn't wait for support. He didn't coordinate with other units. Some say it was recklessness disguised as heroism. Others say it was genius. In the decades after the war, Wittmann became a symbol of something larger than himself. Books, documentaries, websites, even video games have turned him into a legend. Some see him as a soldier's soldier, others as a tool of Nazi myth-making. His name still stirs debate. Was he a brilliant tactician, a blind ideologue, a war criminal, a hero? Maybe he was all of those things. But one thing is certain, Michael Wittmann's name didn't fade with time. It rolled on like the tracks of a Tiger tank, loud, heavy, and impossible to ignore. So, in the end, Michael Wittmann was more than just a tank commander. He was a reminder that even the most remarkable skills can't erase the past. If you're interested in more fascinating history content, make sure to click on the next video.